Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly market discussion. As usual, we're going to start off with the US indices, then followed by the STI index. And then we're going to look into some interesting stocks in both the Singapore market and the US market to see what are the opportunity ahead. So let's start off with the Dow right now. As we can see last week from the chart that we had nice rebound from here, except that on Friday, due to the disappointing non-farm payroll, the market struggled to continue higher. So with this kind of closing, does that affect the Dow? Frankly, we do not see a big bearish candle over here. For the Dow, it is just a nice doji. And what we have ahead is that if you look at the bigger picture, the Dow actually has a chance to form double bottom if it can retest this resistance at around 35066. And if you look at S&P 500, it doesn't look like the Dow, but what we are looking at is that it has a resistance to test at 4464 in order to move up higher. Of course, if it tests 4464, it forms a double bottom. Why the S&P 500 does not perform better than Dow or as good as Dow, so-called better in terms of closing, is because the Nasdaq struggled to hit higher as the US Treasury yield has inched up again and therefore led to some selling. So the market is looking at a very important piece of data next week. So let's look at this. So next week, the top three things that the market will be focusing on is that from here, number one, next week we have the bank's earnings. Okay, so we have JP Morgan, BAC, and Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs announcing result. So if they can announce smashing profits again, so we probably will be able to see some good movement next week. And then the US data, which is very key because it will be affecting the inflation, and then of course this inflation would probably lead to some Fed decision later, as the Fed is looking at, of course, tapering and then increase of interest rate. And of course, the Fed minutes. So the Fed is going to publish its September meeting minutes on Wednesday, and that could affect the market movement as well. So if the market is positive on the news, then the Nasdaq level that we have to look out for is to cross above 15021. As such, then we can see higher movement towards 15354. Now, if Nasdaq does not or has not been able to recover, then the support level at 1440 is very important. If you can hold at this support level and rebound back to 15021, then we can have a double bottom. S&P 500, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at 4464, and the Dow 35066. So next week, all these levels are very important. So if they can cross above, then we have a bullish momentum or bullish movement coming. But if the bearish momentum sets in, then we have the major support for Dow is at 33819, and the major support for S&P 500 is around 4305. And of course, I mentioned Nasdaq. So all these are for your reference next week. So take a close eye on all these levels. Then we look at STI. So if you look at STI, last week we have a quite volatile week as we swung down and then we swung up, back up again. And this time around, the swing up did help the index to test resistance, but the breakout isn't that convincing as yet. Okay, so we can see that the STI closed above its resistance, slightly above its resistance at 3109, and the candle itself has suggests uncertainty because we see some selling and then fight back with this lower shadow. It creates certain uncertainty. So on Monday, it is important to carry on its so-called good closing on Friday to test this 3126. So when it tests 3126 with a strong white candle, it could mean two things. One is that it shake off all the sellers that has been attempting to push the index down. And of course, the second thing is that the willingness to move higher going forward. So as we are approaching year end, so typically we have a good year end for the stock market. So October, November, let's take a look what happened last year. So if you look at last year, we had a very strong November rally. Of course, October, we had some early rally before there's some selling. Then November recovered strongly. So probably this month, we may have some of this volatility remains before the clear action comes in. And let's take a look at 2019, October, November. So you can see that September we had a sell down in 2019, and then October we bottoms up with a nice breakout over here, and we pick at 3287 in November. So if this happen, well, that will be good for us as well. Then if you look in 2018, of course, it is not really apple-to-apple comparison because before 2020 was pre-COVID, and then after 2020 is new economy, and then that is after COVID, that is with COVID. So the market's momentum and movement and judgment may not be the same, but it's just a sentiment concept where we are looking at, you know, how the market feels during the period where if we see a you know, we see in 2018 we had a September rally, so October we had a sell down, then November we pick up again. So as you can see here, back to the current movement, we have this September down and consolidate throughout the month. Then seems like there's a bottom action over here. So if this bottoming actions continue, right, of course the breakout above 3126 would definitely help and suggest that October we are going for a higher movement. Okay. Now let's move on to look at individual stocks, starting with the Singapore market first. So let's start with the banks. Then we are looking at the DBS here, where we saw DBS last Friday attempting to break out from its resistance at 30.55, but unfortunately the breakout wasn't that successful as it closed lower. So we can see even if DBS has went up, we can see some struggle over here where it is not a very clear uptrend as it moved up with a lot of uncertainty, like in particularly these 2 days where we see long lower shadow, and then when it tests its resistance, isn't that convincing. So going forward, what we are expecting of DBS is that if DBS can eventually and really clear above this 30.55 convincingly. So when I say convincingly, it looks like this. Okay, we are looking at this kind of candles where it convincingly break out above resistance, then continue to move up. And that is important also because that shows how what is the sentiment of the market and how the market would look at the rest of the month. So going forward, 31.40 will be the next resistance if the breakout can be successful. We have OCBC hitting its resistance or trading at this resistance level at 1165 and looking out for a upward movement if it can clear 1165. So 1165 resistance, once it break above that, then we are looking at next resistance at 1179. The good thing is that we see some small positive action in OCBC where we have a double bottom formation. UOB is the most bullish out of the three bank, I would say, because we can see it had broken up from its resistance over here successfully, and right now it has actually moved to where the high was. So at 2640 resistance, that was the high. And what we can see here is that, you know, if we can continue higher to test this level, going forward, we do expect a pullback to happen to form a support level and then continue move up. Now, with our banks going to announce their result as well, I believe will be in November, okay, if I'm not wrong. Okay, if you are looking at this kind of movement, probably the market is preparing for a good result ahead. So, but of course, that is still early. We still have many days to go before the actual result announcement. But still, we are not looking at the bearish chart for a moment. For the moment, we're not looking at bearish charts for the banks at the moment. So keep a close eye and see how the movement develop. Now let's move to the tech. Last week, if you follow the video, we talked about UMS, and I drew this symmetrical triangle, if you remember this. So I projected two directions. One direction, which is going up at 1.85 target, and then the other one is 1.53. So it's time to see the real movement. So what happened? Of course, you see here, this is empty. So what happened to UMS? It broke down and then moved to our target level. While looking at the breakdown volume, it was high. So the market is really bearish on the tech right now, and I'm not too sure why UMS is targeted in such a manner where it got dumped significantly, and that formation was like self-fulfilling prophecy. So it formed a symmetrical triangle with that kind of magnitude, and then when it dropped that kind of magnitude towards our projected level, and now it is forming a bearish flag. And the good thing about the technical analysis is that if you study back many examples, the bearish flag doesn't really work. And I remember I did one bearish flag projection for Nanofirm, and Nanofirm did not break down actually. So can UMS recover? That is a big question mark ahead. With such a heavy selling, I'm not too sure what is behind the selling, who is behind the selling rather, who is behind the selling, and then what's the intention? Why is such a bearish outlook happened on the UMS, or why has this bearish outlook happened on UMS? So is there any bad news coming, etc.? There is no special announcement on this from this UMS, and there is also no disclosure of insider selling, etc. So probably are some funds exiting the counter, not wanting to participate in the bonus issue. Okay, Franken remains at the support level, and we are looking at struggles to move and rebound. So with the Nasdaq remain weak, our tech counter still would face the pressure of probably going lower. So if they're really going lower, then Franken may retest this support level at 2.09 before rebounding. But if it doesn't retest this support level and rebound from this 213 support, of course, it must fill out the gap here, and it must really cross 229 over here. So if you have the gap at 226, then cross above 229 to return to its bullish movement. ISDN is drifting lower and struggle in its rebound as well. So for ISDN shareholder, probably got to wait a little bit longer time before it can recover. Hopefully the selling in Nasdaq subside and we see recovery in Nasdaq, then that can help our tech counter to recover nicely. Now, the major support for ISDN is at 56 cents. It has a support at around 60.05, which it is trying very hard to hold above it. Okay, so we shall see next week whether it will break below this low, which is 59. And then once it breaks below 59, then 56 support level will be retested. If it doesn't break below this 59, we shall watch whether it can cross above 63 in order to be bullish. AEM remains weak. The chart is still weak, and we can see the whole upward momentum is in jeopardy because we can see this uptrend line. If it cannot hold above this uptrend line, then next week will be potentially a bearish week. So very crucial next week, yeah. All these tech counters are at their support level. UMS also trying to rebound from the 153 support level over here, or you went as low as 154, just one beat to 153, and it's crucial that they rebound strongly and show some conviction is in order to recover higher. ST Engineering, last week I mentioned the hammer, and right away it gap up and then retest its resistance. As you can see, this resistance seems to be strong. The counter struggle to move above this resistance at 39. Nevertheless, we see this volatility should continue before it hit back to this high at 4.05. So we can expect more upward swing and downward swing action over at this range from 380 to 390. Then an eventual breakup above 394 would help this counter to hit 405. Okay, now the most important thing that probably I would think of is that this counter should not trade below this 380 support, and hopefully it can instead of testing this support level, break out immediately to hit 394 again and break up from there. So this is what I hope. Okay, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, there might be some more volatility going ahead next week. Then next week, what we are looking at is also the travel is opening up with many more countries in the list. So we see SATS having a major resistance at around 422. As you can see, there's a 1, 2, 3, 3 times, and then the 4th time recently. And we do have a upward trend line over here, where we can see the upward movement or the upward trend over here for this trend line confluence with the recent movement. So if this is really the sign, then we are looking at the 4.22 resistance to break out convincingly. And if it can really do so, then the next resistance to look out for would be around 4.59. Hopefully we can hit that level, but of course there are some minor resistance around. So the minor resistance like 4.26 and 4.42, these are the two minor resistance that we have to look out for as well. But I think my ultimate goal will be around 4.59 if the recovery or the opening up takes place, and more countries were to be added in the list. Of course, the market would think SATS will recover faster. Then, of course, SIA would benefit from that opening up, and its major resistance zone is at 517 to 524. And what we want to see is a retest of this resistance from 517 to 524. And next one is SIA Engineering, because when more airplanes take to the sky, SIA Engineering has more plane to maintain, and therefore it got to break out from this consolidation movement and then move into the level where we see more potential bullish. The levels that we could see more potential bullish momentum is 215 to 218, and once it breaks out above 218, then next resistance to look out for is 2.23. So next week, very interesting week ahead. So let's see how the market will react to the good news of opening up. And let's take a look at the banks right now, the US banks rather, because they are going to announce results. So we shall start off with JP Morgan. JP Morgan has moved up despite the market sell down. We can see the bank has been very strong, and then it broke out from its resistance over here at 165 to move up towards 170. And the next level to look out for, let me do the settings. Okay, so the next level to look out for is that this bank should be able to cross 171 if the result is good. And if we do expect a good result, the next potential upward movement just a kind of projections that the bank usually have this kind of movement, and we would want it to repeat itself. Let's take a look over here. Maybe it has a potential movement towards 181. But if it cannot break out above 171 convincingly, then the support level to look out for is this level, 168. And if 168 fail to hold, the next key support I would think is around here at 162. Bank of America, very similar to JPM, has been rather strong. And this counter has the immediate level to break at 44.85. So once it crosses 44.85, the next level to look out for is around 4684. So what we are expecting next week, okay, is importantly looking at this level. Once it crosses bullishly, then we have this upward movement to come. Now, Goldman Sachs has a kind of different chart where it is still trying to recover like the Dow or S&P 500. And if we were to look closer, we see a downward trend to be broken, and we are looking at it breaking above 404 to in order to be bullish again. Morgan Stanley is at the support level trying to rebound as well. So it's like kind of like a mixed fortune for the US big banks. And you can see Morgan Stanley support at 97 trying to rebound and then go back to its major resistance at 105. So seems like JP Morgan and Bank of America are overbought, while these Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley still have some upside to come. Because as we all know, they are at the high of, and the banks, no doubt I have made some positive comment. There are still some reservation where the result is still unknown, largely unknown, and we are not sure whether it can really help to push up the banks to the next high. So a very important point to note is that last quarter's result, after the banks announced result, it did not go up. So that's why I have my reservation as well. So next week, let's keep a close eye. Let's keep our finger crossed and see what happened going forward. Personally, I have JP Morgan. Since the last quarter, I've been holding it, from 160 until now, swinging up and down with the counter, refusing to take small profit, looking out for the bank to move up. Okay, so let's see how the result would pans out. Next, I would like to take a look at Apple. Apple ended the week on a weekly chart on a positive note where we can see a weekly hammer. No doubt Friday it doesn't close up, but the weekly chart still look okay. And if I were to throw in the indicators, you can see a 20-week MA support over here. So next week we need a confirmation level, which is 144. So this confirmation level, if the counter forms a nice white candle above 144 to 145, then we may see more upward movement coming with the resistance, weekly resistance now at 157. With the iPhone 13 in hot demand, there might be a chance that Apple can recover. So we shall see how it goes next week. So if you look at the daily chart, it really needs to cross above 144 and then also 147 in order to continue higher to 158. Tesla, after announcing the record deliveries, as I mentioned last week, it did go up, but it struggled to break out convincingly. So I would think that next week there might be some attempt to break out again, since like this 800 or 806 levels is quite a tough nut to crack. So we got to watch out closely for the potential breakout to come. Okay, the chart itself is on uptrend. You can see here from the bottom of May until now, we see higher high, higher low, and then now we see some slight consolidation, and really that breakout needs to come in order to see Tesla continue to move higher. All right, so this comes to an end to my video this week. I hope you like it, and have a good week ahead. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.